I was still fuming when I grabbed my phone and replayed the video for the third time. My sister, Emily, had secretly filmed the entire barbecue. I wasn't surprised. She always had a knack for stirring up drama when no one was looking. But this time? This time was different. The clip was innocuous at first, just shots of us eating, laughing, and chatting. But then it took a turn. The sound cut in, and I saw myself in the frame, standing near the grill, talking about my job. I didn't even realize I'd been speaking so openly. But Emily had, and she'd managed to capture my parents' judgmental stares as I spoke about the struggle of finding steady work in a volatile economy. Then came the part that made my stomach drop. My mother's voice, thick with disapproval, mocked my pathetic career. My father chimed in with a laugh, and the others joined in. There I was, the joke of the barbecue. They all laughed, unaware that I was standing just a few feet away, pretending I couldn't hear them. I couldn't believe it. I'd been the one paying their bills for the past 5 years. I'd been the one who kept their house afloat when their savings ran dry. I'd been the one to make sure they had groceries and insurance when they needed it most. All of it, just so they could laugh at me like that behind my back. And Emily? She was the one who had the audacity to post it online. I don't know what made her think that sharing something so private would be harmless, but there it was, for the world to see, my personal failure on display. It went viral almost immediately, the comments pouring in. Some people were sympathetic, but the majority just piled on, making jokes at my expense. What did she expect me to do? Sit back and let her humiliate me? The betrayal stung more than I could have imagined, and I knew, deep down, that there was no going back. But then I found something else that shattered whatever I had left of them. My aunt, of all people, called me up the next day. She sounded as if she was trying to hide something in her voice. She mentioned that the family had gathered to read the will. I wasn't invited, of course. My sister had been the one they'd left everything to, every single penny, every possession. She was going to inherit it all. I couldn't breathe. Everything I had done for them, everything I had sacrificed, and they were leaving it all to Emily. The one person who had stabbed me in the back the hardest. The one who had made my life a laughingstock on social media. So, I did the only thing that made sense in the moment. I cut them off. Completely. No more calls, no more visits, no more help. I couldn't stomach being around people who didn't value me, who saw me as nothing more than a joke. My heart was torn, but my pride had taken too much of a beating. I haven't spoken to any of them since. It's been months, and I'm still angry, but more than anything, I'm relieved. I know it was the right decision. Maybe one day, they'll regret it. Maybe one day, Emily will realize how much she's taken from me. But for now, I'm focused on moving forward. It's been a few months since I cut ties with them, and honestly, I've had some time to reflect. The anger has faded, but the emptiness remains. I didn't just lose family, I lost a part of who I thought I was. For so long, I defined myself by the role I played for them. I was the provider, the fixer, the one who held everything together when it seemed like they couldn't. But now, without that role, I'm forced to ask myself who I really am. The first few weeks after I made the decision to walk away were the hardest. I still expected a call, a text, or even a simple sorry from them, but nothing came. Instead, Emily sent a few messages on social media, as if nothing had happened. She didn't even acknowledge the hurt she'd caused. It felt like she was waiting for me to come crawling back, but that was never going to happen. I'm not sure what was worse, their silence or the fact that I could see they didn't even care. Then, out of nowhere, my old friend from high school, Sarah, reached out. We hadn't spoken in years, but somehow, she had found out about everything that had happened. She'd been following the video after it went viral. It wasn't exactly the way I wanted to reconnect, but it was a relief to know someone still cared. She invited me to a small get-together at her place. It wasn't much, just a few people, some pizza, and drinks. But that night, I realized something important. There are people who see me for who I am, beyond the failures or the mistakes. It wasn't about money, or jobs, or keeping up appearances. It was just about being real. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was enough. Not because of what I did for anyone else, but because of who I was. But I still couldn't shake the feeling of being betrayed by the people who should have had my back. The ones who knew my struggles, my fears, and still chose to laugh at me behind closed doors. There's a certain kind of pain that comes with realizing that your own family, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, don't actually see you. They see what you can give them, what you can do for them, and when that's gone, so are they. A few weeks ago, I got a call from my aunt again. She told me about the family's next big event, a reunion. She was practically begging me to come. She said they all missed me, that they'd finally realized what they lost. But I could hear the desperation in her voice. It wasn't about making things right. It was about making sure their lives weren't too inconvenient without me around. I haven't replied. I'm done being the one who fixes everything. It's not my job to keep a family together that never really cared about me in the first place. And then there's Emily. I saw her post again the other day. This time, it was a picture of her holding my family's inheritance. A new house, new cars, all the things I was supposed to inherit, except I wasn't even part of the equation anymore. I felt a rush of anger, but it was different this time. It wasn't the same rage from before, the hurt that made me feel small. It was more like acceptance, the kind of anger that lets you move forward. Because in that moment, I realized something: they don't get to define me anymore. I don't need their approval, their money, or their toxic support. What they did to me, what they left me with, isn't who I am. I've found my own way. And if they want to keep pretending like everything's fine, let them. But I'm done. They may have left everything to Emily in the will, but in the end, she'll be the one who has nothing but their judgment to live with. And me? I'm building a life on my own terms. Time has a funny way of changing things. After months of distancing myself from my family, I thought I'd be okay. I really did. But the silence? It still eats at me sometimes. I don't think it'll ever fully go away, especially when you've spent so much of your life invested in people who were supposed to love you. You can't just erase that part of yourself, no matter how much you want to. I kept to myself for a while. The isolation felt safe, but it also left room for a lot of self-doubt. Was I doing the right thing? What if I was wrong to cut them out? What if, in the end, I was the one who had messed up? I don't know if anyone else has felt this way, when you're forced to choose between your self-respect and your family, and neither feels completely right. But then something unexpected happened. I ran into my cousin, Rachel, at a coffee shop. I didn't see her at first. She was at the counter, ordering her drink, and I was buried in my phone. But when I looked up and saw her face, I froze. Rachel had always been one of the few people in the family who had never judged me. She was quiet, reserved, but she never made me feel less than. We used to talk for hours when we were younger, back when things were simpler. She caught my eye and smiled faintly, almost nervously. I couldn't tell if she was unsure whether to approach me or if she didn't know where I stood after everything that had happened. "Hey," she said, hesitating, and I could tell she wanted to say more. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to turn around and walk out, to keep the walls up like I had been doing for months, but something in me said to stay. "Hi," I replied, forcing a smile. "How've you been?" She shrugged, sitting across from me as if nothing had changed. It felt weird, awkward even. But we both knew we couldn't pretend that everything was the same. "Listen," she began, her voice soft, I've been meaning to reach out. I know things are messy with the family right now, but I didn't want you to think I agreed with everything that happened. What they did to you, what Emily did, was wrong. I never thought they'd treat you like that. I didn't know what to say. It felt like a relief to hear someone say it out loud. For months, I'd been carrying the weight of the betrayal alone. But hearing her acknowledgement made it feel less like I was crazy for walking away. I don't know why they did what they did, Rachel continued, but I do know that I'm not like them. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You're still family to me, even if it doesn't feel that way. Her words caught me off guard. I hadn't expected her to say anything like that. It was like a breath of fresh air in a room that had been suffocating me for so long. For the first time in months, I didn't feel so alone in this. We talked for hours. She didn't try to justify anything. She just listened. And when it was time to leave, she gave me her number and told me to reach out whenever I needed someone. It wasn't an easy fix. It didn't erase the hurt or the anger, but it gave me a glimmer of hope. Maybe not all of them were lost. Maybe there was still a chance for me to find some peace with the people I had once cared about. But for now, I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. I wasn't going to force myself into a situation where I wasn't respected. But I also wasn't going to shut myself off completely. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Maybe, just maybe, Rachel would be the bridge that helped me find my way back. But it would be on my terms. It's funny how a single conversation can shift your entire perspective. That talk with Rachel was the spark I didn't know I needed. It didn't change everything overnight, but it made me realize I wasn't as alone as I'd convinced myself I was. The truth was, I had been running on empty for so long, putting up walls, thinking I could protect myself from more hurt. But in doing that, I was pushing away the good people, too. A few weeks later, I decided to take a small, terrifying step. I called my mom. I know, it sounds like the last thing I should do, right? But I couldn't keep running from the past forever. Rachel's words were still echoing in my head, "You're still family." Maybe there was a way to make some kind of peace, even if I didn't expect them to understand everything. It wasn't about going back to what we were, it was about finding closure for myself. The call went to voicemail. I wasn't surprised. She'd done the same thing when I tried calling before. But this time, I left a message, and I said everything I needed to say. I told her how much the betrayal had hurt, how her and Dad's actions had left a scar I wasn't sure I could ever heal. I told her about Emily, about the video, about how I had given everything for them, only to be discarded like I was nothing. And then I said the words I never thought I'd say, "I miss you. But I need time. I need to heal." That was all. No long apology, no promises. I just put it out there, raw and real. The response came the next day, an unexpected text from Emily. At first, I froze. I didn't know what to do. Should I ignore her, pretend like I hadn't seen it? Or should I read what she had to say? Part of me wanted to tell her off, to remind her of everything she'd done. But I took a deep breath and opened it. "Are you serious about cutting us off? Do you really think you can walk away from everything just because of a stupid video?" I could feel the judgment in her words, but there was something else there, too. Was it guilt? Or was it just her trying to maintain control of the situation? I didn't respond right away. I let her words sit with me. And then, without overthinking it, I replied. "I'm serious. I'm not walking away because of a video. I'm walking away because I can't keep giving to people who don't appreciate it. I need more than that from family. I need respect, and I didn't get that from you or Mom and Dad." I didn't expect her to reply. But she did. I didn't mean for everything to get so messed up. Maybe I pushed it too far, but I never meant to hurt you. I stared at the text, the weight of her words sinking in. Was she genuinely sorry, or was this just another attempt to get me to come back? I couldn't tell. But for the first time, I didn't feel that rush of anger. I felt confusion. A little bit of hope mixed with a lot of hesitation. I didn't reply right away. Part of me wanted to reach out, to test the waters. But I knew better. I had learned that I couldn't rely on empty promises. Words were just words. I needed actions. A few more days passed before my mom called. She didn't leave a message this time. I hesitated before picking up, my heart racing. "Hi, it's Mom," she said, her voice softer than I'd remembered. "I got your message. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for how everything has gone down. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want to work on this. I want to try." It wasn't a grand apology, but it was something. It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was a start. "I don't know where to begin," she continued, "but I'm here when you're ready." I sat there, holding the phone in my hand, not knowing what to say. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure what I wanted. I told her I needed time to think. And I did. I've been thinking a lot since that conversation. It's still too soon to say where this will go, if anything will change. But I've realized that healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's messy, confusing, and sometimes you have to take a few steps back before you can move forward. For now, I'm staying true to myself. I'm not rushing to forgive or forget. But I'm open to the possibility that, maybe, just maybe, I can rebuild something that's worth having. I don't expect it to be easy. I don't expect it to be perfect. But I'm learning to trust myself again, and that's what matters most. Maybe one day, we'll all find our way back to each other. But for now, I'm taking it one day at a time. It's been a few months since my last conversation with my mom, and things have definitely changed. Not in a grand, dramatic way, but in small, subtle shifts that I didn't expect to make such a difference. I've had a few more conversations with my mom since then, and each one has been less tense than the last. I'm not sure if she's genuinely trying to repair things, or if she just wants things to go back to normal. But I've stopped expecting her to have all the answers or to fix everything. I realize that if I'm going to heal, I have to be the one to set the pace. As for Emily, well, things are still complicated. She reached out a few times after our last text exchange, but I kept my distance. I wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet, anyway. I couldn't let go of the way she humiliated me, the way she betrayed my trust. I could feel the weight of her attempts to smooth things over, but the truth is, I didn't feel like I owed her anything anymore. Her apology felt more like a way to take the pressure off herself than an actual understanding of the damage she had caused. But something happened last week that made me reconsider everything. I got a letter from my aunt. It was an old-fashioned letter, handwritten, the kind I hadn't seen in ages. I was hesitant to open it at first, thinking it was just more of the same, guilt-tripping me into coming back to the family fold, more pleas to forgive and forget. But something in me told me to at least read it. The letter started with a simple "I'm sorry." No preamble, no excuses. Just an apology. And then, my aunt went on to say that she had seen how much I'd been carrying for so long. How much I had sacrificed for the family and how, in doing so, I had lost sight of myself. She admitted that she had seen everything happen with Emily and my parents, and that she never spoke up. For all these years, she had been complicit by staying silent, letting the dysfunction continue without ever stepping in to say, "This isn't right." I didn't know how to react. I hadn't expected this, especially not from her. My aunt had always been a quiet observer, never getting involved in family drama. I never thought she truly saw what I was going through. She ended the letter with a simple line, "I don't expect you to come back. But I want you to know, I'm here for you. If you ever need me, I'm here." For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone truly understood the weight of everything I had carried. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure if I'm ready to reach out or let her back in. But I'm not ruling it out either. It's strange to feel this shift, like the door isn't closed forever, but it's not open just yet. I'm taking my time with it, and that's okay. In the meantime, I've been focusing more on myself, on my own growth and healing. I've been working on my career, pushing myself to take risks and step out of my comfort zone. I've started to feel like there's more to me than what my family ever defined me by. I'm learning to let go of the guilt, to stop feeling like I need to prove myself to anyone, especially to people who never appreciated me in the first place. I've also been reconnecting with old friends, people who had faded out of my life while I was caught up in my family's chaos. It's refreshing to talk to people who know me for me, not for what I can do for them, not for my failures or mistakes. They just know me, and that's enough. As for my family, I don't know what the future holds. I still don't trust them, and I don't know if I ever will. But I've come to realize that I don't need their approval to be happy. I don't need their validation to feel worthy. I've already learned the hardest lesson of all, that I am enough, with or without them. Maybe one day, we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe I'll find it in me to forgive. But for now, I'm focused on my own healing. I'm focused on me, and that's something I've never done before. And in the end, that's the most important thing. It's been a year since I cut ties with my family, and in many ways, I feel like a completely different person. I never imagined I'd be here, writing about this chapter of my life with such clarity, but here I am, stronger, more confident, and, most importantly, at peace with the choices I made. The healing process hasn't been linear. Some days, I still feel the sting of their betrayal, and I catch myself wondering if things could have been different. Could I have found a way to salvage those relationships without losing myself? But then I remember why I did what I did. I didn't just cut them off because of the video or the inheritance. I cut them off because I realized I couldn't keep giving pieces of myself to people who never valued me. I've spent this year rediscovering who I am without the weight of their expectations hanging over me. I've taken risks with my career, pushing myself to pursue passions I had buried for far too long. And I've been more honest with myself than I've ever been, no more pretending, no more performing for others to validate my worth. I've learned to trust my own decisions, even when they don't align with what others think. And, surprisingly, I've begun to rebuild connections, just not with the people I thought I would. Rachel, my cousin, and I have become closer. She's been a steady source of support, checking in on me without trying to impose or force a relationship. It's just been a slow, natural reconnection, and I've come to appreciate her more than I ever did growing up. As for my mom, we've had a few more conversations. They've been calm, and I've made it clear that I need time, and that it's not about forcing things to go back to the way they were. I told her I wasn't looking for an apology anymore, just honesty and respect. I'm not sure if that's something she's capable of giving, but for the first time, I'm not waiting for her to change. I'm focusing on my own growth. Emily, though, well, she's still in the background. She reached out a few times, but I haven't responded. Part of me wonders if she'll ever fully understand the damage she did, and part of me doesn't care anymore. I realize that I can't keep holding on to the past, and I've stopped letting her actions define me. The truth is, if she wanted to make things right, she would have done it by now. But that's on her, not me. The inheritance is still a sore spot, but I've come to terms with it. I won't let their greed or their lack of appreciation for me dictate my future. What they took from me doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what I'm building now, the life I'm creating on my own terms, free from the ties that once bound me in a cycle of sacrifice and self-doubt. Looking back, I realize something important: I don't need them. I never did. I've always had the strength to stand on my own, even if it took me a while to see it. The hardest lesson I learned wasn't about cutting them off, it was about realizing I had the power to choose my own path, without guilt or fear of rejection. This chapter of my life is over, but it's also the beginning of something new. A life where I define my worth, my happiness, and my future. It's not perfect, and it's still a work in progress, but it's mine. And that's enough. I'm free. And for the first time in a long time, I'm exactly where I need to be.